Vandaag bij Antwoorden met Bayless Conley.
Never underestimate the power of influence that you have. Even those of us that are the most introverted and solitary. My friend, you carry much more influence than you realize. The Bible says no one lives to himself, no one dies to himself. People are affected by your life, no matter how solitary that life might be.
Welkom bij Antwoorden met Bayless Conley. Het leven kan soms een uitdaging zijn. Maar of het nu gaat om financiën, relaties, gezondheid of de vraag naar je doel in je leven, één ding is zeker. God ziet je. Hij houdt van je. En wat er ook aan de hand is, hij heeft de antwoorden op je vragen.
There's some interesting research statistics that estimate that the average person touches and influences no less than 80,000 people in their lifetime. Now, if that's true, there'd be obviously some that would touch somewhat less, influence somewhat less, but there'd be others, the more outgoing of us that would end up touching and influencing many, many more. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit today about the power of influence. What we say, how we live, what we create, the moods and the dispositions that we display, all bring influence into our own personal world. And the truth is, you never know who's watching you. Most of the time, someone is, whether it's a child, a sibling, a spouse, a friend, a stranger. You ever turn around and somebody's looking at you? You're driving your car and you look over and there's somebody in the other car staring at you for some reason? I keep a few harmonicas in my car, and that's my practice room. When I drive, I play. And sometimes I'll run into people and they go, "You're the guy. I saw you playing your harmonica in your car." It's like, I actually wasn't doing it to be watched, but there you go. People are watching, and we're influencing in one way or another all the time, whether we realize it or whether we don't. And really, influence, it's a bit of a two-sided coin. There's a good side, a positive side, and there's also a bad side, a negative side to influence. There's plenty of stories in the Bible that show both sides of the coin. There's a guy named Demetrius in the book of Acts. I think it's Acts chapter 19. He's a silversmith. And he succeeds in turning the entire silversmith guild against the Apostle Paul and against the work of the gospel. And then he succeeds in getting the entire city of Ephesus in a confused uproar. They all rush into this theater that's there. And Janet and I have been to Ephesus in modern-day Turkey, and that theater is no small thing. The Bible says it was filled with people shouting for 2 hours, and a lot of them didn't even know what they're shouting about. And that theater seats 25,000 people, all through the influence of one man who is being driven by greed and by anger. The most well-known, I think, person that wielded a negative and bad influence in the Bible, and most of us are familiar, her name has become synonymous with that, is Jezebel. The story goes in 1 Kings 21:25, it declares, "No one else so completely sold himself to what was evil in the Lord's sight as did Ahab, for his wife Jezebel influenced him." She was a conniving murderer, and she influenced her husband in the same way. Proverbs 22, verses 24 to 25 says, "Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man do not go, lest you learn his ways and set a snare for your soul." If you hang around with angry people, with bitter people, the scripture says your soul will get trapped, your soul will get snared, and their ideas and their attitudes will rub off on you. In fact, the New Testament says, 1 Corinthians 15 and 33, do not be deceived. Don't be wrong about this. Evil company corrupts good habits. The Amplified Bible says that it corrupts good manners, morals, and character. Now, the other side of that, influence coin, the good side would be somebody like Pastor Tom. He's so happy, everybody loves to be around him. Truly. His joyful attitude and his faith have a deep weightiness of influence about it. And I've known Tom for a long time, and honestly, he's up all the time. I think one time in the last 20 years I've seen you down, and I think it lasted about half an hour. But that's influence. Now, we talked about Jezebel. She influenced her husband, but she also influenced her daughter Athaliah as well. And she influenced her in a really bad way. Athaliah was part of the royal family there in Israel, and her son actually became king. And her son died prematurely. And so Athaliah, the daughter of Jezebel, you know what she does? She immediately murders all of her grandchildren and seizes power. They were little infants, little babies, little toddlers. She killed them all except she missed one. Now, she was just, a product of that influence of her mother, but there was another side to the coin in that story. There was a priest named Jehoiada. So one side, you've got Athaliah. She's a bad influencer, influenced by her mother, but then there's Jehoiada the priest. He and his wife actually took that one royal grandson, he was only 1 year old, and they stole him away and hid him in a chamber and took care of him for 6 years. No one knew he was there. All the time he's growing, he's being nurtured by Jehoiada, he's being taught by Jehoiada. And Jehoiada's got this influence. He loves God, and he begins to talk to a number of the soldiers, and over that 6-year period, he was able to influence many of them. And then when Joash, the young royal grandson, turned 7, Jehoiada pulls him out of hiding. He's 7 years old now, and they declare, long live the king. And he effects a coup. They overthrow Athaliah. They execute her. And then for the next 40 years, almost 40 years, Jehoiada serves as Joash's counselor and as the spiritual guide of the nation. He leads a national revival and reformation. The people of God enter into a covenant once again to serve him with all of their hearts and all of their souls. They take out all of the idol worship in the land, and things are good. It's a decades and decades of great prosperity, all because of the influence of Jehoiada. Now, an interesting thing, when he and his wife took young Joash and hid him, Jehoiada was 90 years old. He died at 130. Some of you, listen to me. Your days of influence are not over. Your greatest influence may be in front of you. I'm 64 years young, and I feel like my days of greatest influence are in front of me, not behind me. Now, just to show you the influence that he wielded, when he died, Joash and the entire nation immediately turned away from God. While Jehoiada lived, they served God. When he died, they turned away from God. Through his influence, he kept an entire nation on course. Never underestimate the power of influence that you have. Even those of us that are the most introverted and solitary, my friend, you carry much more influence than you realize. The Bible says no one lives to himself, no one dies to himself. People are affected by your life, no matter how solitary that life might be. In fact, I quote that verse. This is Romans 14:7. It says, for every man's life and every man's death has a relation to others as well as to himself. There's no escaping the fact we have influence. Every one of us in here, every person listening, we have influence. And the question, I guess, is how can we leverage that influence for the kingdom? How can we wield that influence for Christ? I'm just going to share with you four simple thoughts that can help you bring a good influence, a godly influence in your own personal world. You ready? 4 simple things. Number 1, live a transformed life. Now, I'm not talking about perfection. Nobody can do that. But the truth is, the change that Jesus has wrought in us when we got saved, sooner or later, has to show up outwardly in a visible, measurable way. It's called the fruit of the Spirit. If there is a root, there eventually will be fruit. We begin to live transformed lives. Romans 12:2, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Very important theme here. It declares, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, when it says that you may prove the good and perfect will of God, that means so that you can understand and live out God's life for you, what he has for you. Now, he said 2 things. Don't be conformed, but be transformed. Everybody say conformed, transformed. Now, the word conformed means to be formed by outward pressure. Literally means to be squeezed into a mold. Don't let the world, by its pressure, squeeze you into its mold. Don't end up thinking like the world. Don't accept the ideologies of the world. Don't accept the teachings of the world. Don't be squeezed into the world's mold. You shouldn't sound like the world and look like the world. And there are external pressures, peer pressure, the pressure in our culture of media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't step out of line. Don't be different. You better run with the pack. You better sound like us. You better not have a divergent, idea or theology, because if you do, you're going to pay for it. And so there's this pressure, but he says, don't be conformed by the pressure of the world, but be transformed. And that word transform means to be changed from the inside out. It literally means to let what's on the inside work its way to the outside. The Greek word is metamorpho. We get our English word, as you would understand, metamorphosis from it. Like a caterpillar that goes through a metamorphosis and changes from a caterpillar into a butterfly. It happens from the inside out. And what he's saying is, hey, when you got saved, God put good things in you. God put holy things in you. God put eternal things in you. Now, how do you get those inward things to the outside? How do you live a transformed life so that it comes to the outside in your speech and the way that you deal with people and the way that you handle situations and the way that you look at the world and what your priorities are? How does it get from the inside to the outside? He tells you, we're transformed by the renewing of our mind. And the way we renew our mind is with God's word. Begin to think like God thinks. Spend time in his book. Accept his word as your final authority on all matters of living and conscience. And when you do that, something supernatural takes place. It allows what God has deposited on the inside to come to the outside. And then you begin to live a life of influence, powerful influence for God. You begin to live in a transformed way. And my friend, when we begin to live a transformed life, when we renew our mind with God's word, and the good things God's put on the inside work their way to the outside, people will notice. Influence. Second way that we can bring influence is just help someone in need. Pretty simple. Help someone in need. It may be a material need they have. It may be an emotional need. Maybe they just need a shoulder to cry on. Maybe they need somebody to take them out to coffee and listen to their problems. Just meet a need. 1 Peter 2:12 from the Living Bible says, "Be careful how you behave among your unsaved neighbors. For then, even if they are suspicious of you and talk against you, they will end up praising God for your good works when Christ returns." We win more hearts by melting them than we do from pounding on them. It is true. Jesus said that men will observe your good works and they'll glorify God on the day of visitation in Matthew chapter 5. And in talking about how God uses our good works, our acts of kindness, Jesus said two things about us. He said, you're salt and you're light. I think we understand how when we're kind to people, when we reach out to meet a need, no strings attached, that the light of the gospel shines through that. But it also has a salty effect. And salt makes people thirsty. If you've ever gone to a bar, usually they got a little bowl with really salty pretzels or some kind of salty nuts there. Did you know that the owners of those establishments don't put those salty goodies out of the goodness of their heart? It's not because they thought, my patrons, they're going to stop in on their way home from work, and maybe some of them missed lunch today and they might be hungry. Let's at least give them some pretzels. No, they put that salty food out there so their patrons will eat it and get thirsty. Yeah, they're going to buy an extra beer before they leave. And you know what? Through our good works, through our acts of kindness, it does make people thirsty for what we have. It makes people thirsty for God. All right, third way we can wield this influence that we have is simply extend an invitation. John chapter 1, verse 43 says, the following day, Jesus wanted to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We found him of whom Moses and the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Now, that's pretty simple. Just come check it out, Nathanael. Just come and see. The simplest of invitations. And when Nathanael came and encountered Jesus, he was convinced. See, someone did their part, gave a simple invitation, and then God did his part. And Nathanael ended up declaring, "You're the king, you're the Son of God." Sometimes we just offer an invitation. You read in Matthew's gospel as well as in Luke's gospel, when Jesus is walking, there's this tax collector sitting there named Matthew. Jesus says, "Follow me." And there's something so compelling about Jesus that Matthew gets up from his seat, leaves his job, and starts following Jesus. Very next verse says Matthew threw a party at his house and invited all his friends. He wanted them all to meet this new rabbi. And it was a bunch of tax collectors and sinners, a bunch of notorious sinners there. The house is full of them, and Jesus is in there interacting with them. That's where the Pharisees got so mad. Said, "Oh, he eats and drinks with tax collectors and sinners." And Jesus said, "Hey, well people don't need a physician, but sick people do. I'm the great physician. That's why I'm here." But here's the thing. How did they all get there? Obviously, Matthew invited them. He threw a party. He wanted them to meet Jesus, and he just said, "Come." And if we'll do our part, which is extend an invitation, and it can be as simple as, hey, come to this event. Hey, check out this podcast. Come to church with me. That's simple. If we'll do our part, God will do his part. Literally, just as simple as come and see. Just come and check it out. A fourth and final thing that we can do, that you can do, that I can do, tell your story. Just tell your story. In Mark chapter 5, we have the amazing story of the madman that lived among the tombs. He didn't wear any clothes. He's tormented, filled with evil spirits. He cuts himself with stones, cries out day and night. They would capture him and chain him, and he would break the chains. Everyone's afraid of him. Jesus casts the demons out of the man, sets him free. And we see this scene. This guy goes from being a raving maniac to being clothed, sitting, and in his right mind. And he asked Jesus, please let me come with you. And interestingly enough, Jesus said no. And this is what Jesus said to him, Mark 5:19. He said, go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. Go home to your friends and tell them. And he did it, and the Bible says everyone marveled. Now, Jesus didn't go say, go tell what happened to somebody else. He said, go tell what the Lord's done for you and how he's had compassion on you. Go home to your friends. You don't have to thunder out, some call for repentance. You don't have to give a doctrinal exposition of the book of Romans. He said, just tell your story. Go home to your friends and tell them what the Lord's done for you. He has been very, very good to me. In fact, I will tell you bottom line, I'm favored by God. I feel so undeservedly favored. He's been so good to me. He has been good to our family. We've got our son, Pastor Harrison, sitting on the front row. He wouldn't be here if God hadn't been good to us. Some of you know my wife couldn't have children, had female problems, and through a supernatural act of God, when a pastor prayed for her, it's a bit of a story I won't get into now, she was healed. And Harrison's actually named after that pastor. That's where his name comes from. God has been very, very good to us. I was in a boating accident, January 2014. You guys prayed for me. I got people that pray for me. God's been very good to me. They didn't expect me to live, but I lived. Then it was touch and go if I'd ever be able to talk normal again because I had a dead vocal cord. My tongue was in about 8 pieces. My throat had been crushed and torn open like you'd step on a tin can. Nothing worked anymore, but by the grace of God, I can get the ball over the net now. God has been very, very good to me. So go home to your friends, tell your story. And you have influence. You do. Just by living a transformed life, you have influence, great influence. Sometimes we hear people that have these dramatic stories of how God reached down and transformed their life. And, we look at our own lives in comparison with that. We think, well, I don't have anything to say. But the truth is, we do. I do, and you do. You are right where you are right now because God has put you there, and you do have influence in certain people's lives. That the community, the circle of your community. You have influence there, and God wants to use you. Even if it is as simple as saying, you know what, I didn't have peace, and I prayed, and God gave me peace. I can't explain it, but suddenly my heart was at rest. It can be that simple if you share that story with someone, because the whole world is looking for peace. You have something that people in your world need, but we've got to speak up. And I want to encourage you, let God use you. Share your story, as simple as it might be. Let me pray with you right now. You know, if I could, I'd come into your home, we'd grab hands and we'd pray, but this is the next best thing. Father, I ask you to use my friend, give them wisdom, give them opportunity to share their story in Jesus' name. And I want to say thank you as well for those of you that have partnered with us. We could not do what we do without our faithful partners. God bless you.
Heb je vragen over de uitzending? Of houd je iets bezig waarvoor we kunnen bidden? Schrijf ons dan of bel ons op. Ons team is er voor je. Heb je een uitzending van Bayless Conley gemist? Vind nu alle tv-uitzendingen in onze mediatheek. Ga naar bayless-conley.nl/mediatheek.
We have a daily email devotional that I believe can be of great benefit to you. You know, when we take God's word in every day, it helps us become established in the Lord. The Bible talks about the inward man being renewed day by day. Jesus had to take up our cross daily and to follow him.
Lees de overdenking op je smartphone, 's ochtends bij de koffie, wanneer je onderweg bent of meteen op je computer.
Take time to sow the seeds of God's word into your life every day with this free email devotional.
Hier vind je nog meer antwoorden op levensvragen. Er is elke dag een nieuwe overdenking van Bayless, die je online kunt lezen of die je per e-mail kunt ontvangen. Als je op de hoogte wilt blijven van de preken, kun je je abonneren op ons kanaal. God zegen.